Everybody loves a good tier list, and with the NFL getting started this week, I'm going to go through my annual NFL position tiers. We're going to start with quarterback tiers in this video. We got running back tiers coming up next, then wide receivers. So if you want to watch either of those, make sure to subscribe, watch for those coming in the next week or so. Starting with quarterbacks though, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to put all 32 starting quarterbacks into a tier list based on just this upcoming season alone. It is not based on the future. It is not based on fantasy football. This is real life football based on this upcoming season. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to throw up the outline of the tiers. And before we get to the actual quarterbacks, and we're going to start at the bottom, then we'll work our way up to the top quarterback. Couple things I want to say right away. One, a lot of people have pyramids as their tiers. They have a lot of people down at the bottom, all the way up to one person at top. I don't really like a pyramid style tier list, at least for positions, because in reality, most quarterbacks are in the middle. And, you know, nerds like me, this is kind of like a normal distribution, and that's kind of common. You're going to have a lot of your average quarterbacks. You're going to have some really good. You're going to have some really bad. So for a lot of these, I wanted to kind of keep that shape. And then the other thing for these tiers is for every position, I like to have one guy at the top. And sometimes that's easy. Sometimes that's a little bit harder. But I like to have kind of a sense of who's the top guy. Who's the top guy on the pyramid? Who's kind of the reigning champ for each position? So you'll see one guy at the top for quarterbacks. You'll see the same thing for running backs and receivers. So with that in mind, let's start from the bottom. Tier 7, I have 5 quarterbacks. Justin Fields, Joe Flacco, Daniel Jones, Spencer Rattler, and Russell Wilson. I'm not ranking them in any of these tiers. That's just those quarterbacks in alphabetical order. I think those are pretty much the bottom 5. And these are the 5 quarterbacks that realistically probably shouldn't be starting. That doesn't mean that any of those guys might not have a good couple weeks. Russell Wilson had a couple moments in Pittsburgh. I wouldn't be surprised if he has at least a couple good weeks for New York before they move on to Jackson Dart. Joe Flacco, he might put up some stats for a couple weeks. Justin Fields, I'm sure there's going to be a week where he runs for 2 touchdowns, throws for another 2 touchdowns, and everyone thinks that the Jets fixed him. But over the course of a season, and for a lot of these guys, over the course of probably just 6 weeks or so, it's going to become clear that they aren't really starting quarterbacks in the NFL, or at least not anymore. So I think it's pretty clear at the bottom. Those are the 5. The next tier up from there is tier 6. We could call this the young guys plus Trevor Lawrence and Aaron Rodgers. And I have Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr., Aaron Rodgers, and rookie Cam Ward. A lot of young guys, a lot of more promise in this group. And to me, that's what separates them from the bottom group, is they have some promise. They might not be good right away, but they're going to show signs and they're going to grow over the season. And I think between May, McCarthy, Penix, and Cam Ward, a lot of those guys I like. And a lot of those guys I could see shooting up throughout the season. It's just they're young. A lot of them either haven't started in the NFL or don't have a lot of experience in the NFL. So there are going to be times where it looks a little rough, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these guys shoot up next year. So they're in this tier. And then Aaron Rodgers, I don't really want to talk about him that much. If you think he's still a pretty good starting quarterback, I'm not going to debate you on that. He obviously was a great quarterback. He was an MVP level quarterback. I don't think we are at that time anymore. He's now in his 40s. It didn't look good for New York last year. There's maybe a chance that it was the Jets, and he goes now to Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. Maybe that makes a difference for him. I'm not a believer. I don't think he has that many years left playing in the NFL. He's not at the bottom tier, so I didn't want to put him right at the bottom. So he kind of fits in with all these young guys, but I think that's just where he is at this point of his career. And then Trevor Lawrence. I wanted to put him in the tier above, but I think I've seen enough. And I am a little hopeful that Liam Cohen can kind of solve Trevor Lawrence, can give him something to work on. But we've seen the same Trevor Lawrence for 5 years now, and it just hasn't been a good quarterback. And so I'm to the point where if he turns it around, if Liam Cohen can fix him, if somebody else can fix him, then great, he will move up. But for now, I've seen enough, and it's more like I'll see it when I believe it kind of thing. So he's probably at this tier until proven otherwise. The next tier up is our biggest tier. This is kind of the quarterbacks right in the middle. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. And any given week, they could prove to be a good quarterback. I have Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, Geno Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, Caleb Williams, and Bryce Young. A big variety of quarterbacks. We have some veterans like a Geno Smith, like a Sam Darnold, I guess we'll call a veteran at this point, who are kind of what they are. They're going to be good quarterbacks if you give them a good offensive line, good weapons. They could be above average quarterbacks. If not, they might be below average quarterbacks. So they're going to kind of fit in the middle. Good enough, but maybe not elevating a team as much as you'd want. You have some other guys like a Kyler Murray, who at this point of his career, I think is just right in the middle. He's going to have a month this year where he just goes off. Everyone thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then he falls off, has a bad few weeks, and that's just Kyler Murray. So I kind of have to put him in the middle. Tua, I think, is a good quarterback. And similar to some of these other guys, in the right situation, I think Tua can be a really good quarterback. But it has to be a system that's designed pretty much for him and brings out his strengths. Couple that with the fact that he is one concussion probably away from not playing in the NFL. I can't really put him up that much higher. I don't think he's as bad of a quarterback as some people think, but he's probably just kind of situated right in where he needs to be. And then the three young guys, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, and Bryce Young. All three guys have shown potential. And I know some people are going to say, well, Caleb Williams hasn't shown potential. I saw enough last year that I'm not really believing in him this year, but he did show something last year. And then Bryce Young looked good at the end. Bo Nix, he improved a lot throughout his rookie year. So all three of those guys, to me, have shown more than the young guys below them. And I have a little bit more faith in putting more on them early on in their career than some of the guys below. But I also don't know if any one of those three are going to be true like franchise quarterbacks. And what I mean by franchise quarterback is no matter what the situation is, you are going to elevate your team. And I don't really see that in any of those three right now. That doesn't mean they can't get there. I just don't see it. And that's fine for right now. These guys are young. They're still growing. If they want to move up, then they have to become franchise level quarterbacks. And we're going to talk about some of those guys as we get up the tiers. Those are the quarterbacks that no matter what, you're going to win 9-10 games. No matter what's going on around them, they are going to lead their team. They are going to elevate their team. I don't know if I can quite get there for those three guys. And again, they're young. They're still growing. We'll give them time. They just kind of fit in this tier for right now. Next tier up, which is tier 4, has a lot of the just solid veteran quarterbacks. In this tier, I have Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Matthew Stafford. All of these guys in certain weeks look like top 10 quarterbacks. And when you're putting together your list of top 10 quarterbacks, you're probably going to have a lot of the guys that I have at the top. And then you're going to have a sprinkling of any one of these guys. And it depends on your preference, depends on how they're playing week to week. All of these guys you could argue is a top 10 quarterback. It's just a little bit up and down. One week they look good, one week they don't. But they've proven for long enough that they're in that like fringe top 10 level. And I think really the only one that you could argue should be up a little higher is Matthew Stafford, who just from a pure like quarterback ability standpoint is probably still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I did drop him down a tier because he is now in his late 30s. He's got back issues, which we've talked about. If he's healthy and plays a full 17 games, I could probably move him up. But I had to move him down because of the injuries, because of the age concern. Other than that, I think all of these quarterbacks are kind of the same. You could exchange them, swap them. You could tell me one week one goes off. You could tell me another goes off. They're all kind of the same, which isn't a bad thing, but also none of these guys always stand out compared to some of the guys at the top. So they fit in a nice tier right below those top guys. Tier 3 is where we start to get to some really good quarterbacks. First guy up was star rookie last year, Jayden Daniels. Then we have Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and CJ Stroud. If Daniels puts together another year like he did last year, he's probably going to move up. I just want to see one more year. I don't want to see a sophomore slump like we saw with CJ Stroud, who some people may argue that he shouldn't even be up this high because he struggled last year. I'm still a believer in CJ Stroud. I think everything around him was a mess. Sophomore slump, all that, it's fine. But I think as a pure quarterback, Stroud is still up there. And I think he will show that at times again this year. The guys in the middle are two very contrasting players. You have Justin Herbert, who all the top quarterbacks love Justin Herbert. all the top quarterback scouts love Justin Herbert. He has great arm talent. He can make every throw, but he hasn't really shown that in the league. He hasn't won a lot of big games. He hasn't put up crazy stats, but I think as a pure quarterback, he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And this Chargers team, which we've talked about, isn't going to put a lot of stress on Herbert. He's not going to lead the league in passing, but he's going to make whatever throw needs to happen. And that's just the product of the offense he plays in. And I hope we see a healthy Justin Herbert this year. And if we do, I think he'll show why he's considered a top 10 quarterback by most people. And then Jalen Hurts is kind of the opposite of that. He's a more dual threat quarterback. And so people can argue that Jalen Hurts maybe isn't a good quarterback, or maybe he's not a top tier quarterback. And I would say, sure, maybe as just a pure passer, guys like certainly Justin Herbert, or even down in the next tier, whether that's a Baker Mayfield, a Dak Prescott, a Matthew Stafford. Those guys are probably better passers, just pure passers than Jalen Hurts, although I think Hurts is an underrated passer. But quarterbacks are no longer just pure passers. And at some level, if you want to be a top quarterback, you have to be able to do a little bit of both. And I think Hurts is a good example of that. Yes, it might not always look as pretty. He's not putting crazy passes as some of these guys. But at the end of the day, a quarterback's job is to get the ball down the field and score. And I think Hurts is one of the best in football at that. He can pass, he can run, he has the unstoppable play in the tush push. And I think that combination and that trio is enough to put him at a top tier. If you put him on any other team, he might struggle a little bit more. So I don't want to put him at the very top, but I think he's still a good quarterback, even if it's not quite like your prototypical pocket passer. And then that leaves the final two tiers. We're going to put these up at the same time. There's been a lot of debate on who is the number one quarterback. For me, it's still Patrick Mahomes. I have him as a tier all by himself, followed by Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. A lot of people want to put Josh Allen. A lot of people want to put Lamar Jackson as the best quarterback. But when I'm thinking of quarterbacks, I'm thinking about quarterbacks for a whole season and not a whole regular season. I think Josh Allen was the best regular season quarterback last year. I had him as MVP. I think it was deserving. If you want to say Lamar Jackson should have been, also deserving. He is one of the best regular season quarterbacks potentially we've ever seen, and he showed that again last year. Even Joe Burrow, just what he can do with this offense, despite all the challenges around him, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. But I'm not just talking about the regular season. Again, this isn't fantasy football. The playoffs matter, and the playoffs matter probably more than the regular season. Yes, you got to get to the playoffs. Yes, you got to earn your seed, but you got to be able to show it come playoff time. And until either Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Joe Burrow can show that in the playoffs, and yes, I recognize Joe Burrow has made it to a Super Bowl and has gotten past the Chiefs. But until one of those three can unseat Mahomes on a regular basis, I think Mahomes is still your top. Now, having said that, I think Mahomes is as close as he's been to slipping off that top tier. I think Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are getting close. And if Josh Allen has another great season, he wins back-to-back MVPs, and Mahomes struggles a little bit, I might have to make the change. But I don't want to be one of those people that after one season, I just overreact, take Mahomes off. He has proven until he falls, until he gives us reason to take him off, I think Mahomes still has to be your number one quarterback. And that's despite all the stats you can show. And you can show a ton of stats that says Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, even Joe Burrow have way better stats than Patrick Mahomes. But I would say that stats aren't always the number one thing. And Patrick Mahomes has shown when it matters most, he has what it takes. And that's really the goal of a quarterback. So until proven otherwise, Patrick Mahomes is my number one quarterback. He is in a tier above himself. That might change this year. And I think there is a lot of pressure for Mahomes to play well, not only win potentially another Super Bowl, but there's pressure on him to play well because there are a lot of those people that are saying he's not the best quarterback. For me, he still is. He is going to be until somebody pushes him out or until he falls. I don't think we've gotten there yet. So those are my tiers for NFL quarterbacks. Let me know in the comments if you agreed, if you disagreed with one. There's lots of ways you can do it. We can have a good conversation if you want, but this is how I would tier out the quarterbacks for this upcoming year. As I mentioned at the top, I'm going to be doing running backs next. I'm going to be doing wide receivers after that. So if you wanted to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. Pay attention for those videos coming soon, and we will see you in the next video.